everyone, and welcome. We are here to cover up the interview question series from Mindmajix designed for Power BI. And this is an exclusive questionnaire which is typically asked in the industry, 50 question sets, which will be covered in detail for you to understand how the industry function and what are the expectation from a Power BI expert. So, quickly jumping over to the questions and giving you an understanding of what is that the interviewer would expect you to know. Starting with the first one, which is a very basic one. What is Power BI used for? So, basically, we all know that there are a lot of BI tools which are available in the market. When I talk about BI tool, I'm specifically focusing at the front end tool which is used for a visualization. And one of the biggest competitors that we all know is W. So why do we actually use what is Power BI used for? So in a very simple layman language, Power BI is an visualization tool which is used to do any sort of a simple and a fast capable creating quick insights from your excels, from your data source, from any of your data engine into a front end visual, which could be in your mobile device or could be in your laptop that you want to view. So the purpose of Power BI is to give intelligent view of what is happening in your business, the current output of your business, and what are the important points you need to take care of while your operations are running. So that is what primarily interviewer would expect you to know, that what is the purpose of Power BI. Now, the second question comes in as to what is the difference between self-service BI and a managed enterprise BI. So typically we would know that one thing that you must know, what is an enterprise BI. So basically enterprise BI is governed data which is with the IT department of any organization, and they provide a thorough information about data governance on it. So anything that you are doing should be with the help of the IT team, and any of the platform that you're using will be on an enterprise account, which means that you would have a little less flexibility there and will have lesser control than what your organization IT department would have. But what is self-service BI? Self-service BI is something that you are capable of doing any of your insights with any of the data set which is given, where data set can be governed either by the IT or by you. It could be your specific departmental analysis, or it could be any of the analysis that you are working for a specific manager or for a department for. You don't have to be dependent on any of your IT professional for that. So that's the main difference between the enterprise BI and self-service BI. And Power BI is one of the finest tool, I must say, that anyone can start working upon without being less dependent on your IT team, because it's completely on cloud. And there is also a version where you can just start viewing your data at least on a free version itself, which is a desktop version, right? So these are the two main differences between the self-service BI and a managed enterprise BI account. Okay, now the third one, which is again combination of the both that we covered right now, as to how does Power BI actually work. Okay, so, well, the main purpose of this software is to scale your business growth by putting information together in an efficient way, as we discussed earlier. So, what does it actually do? It combines all your data at the backend, which is coming from all the data sources, and it gives you a capability to transform into an intelligent report by creating charts and diagrams which you think will be fit for the user who is viewing the dashboard and will make sense to them. So it has to be creating an operational efficiency. That is what the entire dashboard would focus on, and triggers the outliers. That is what the main purpose and the main task of Power BI is. Moving on to the fourth question, which says, in what formats does Power BI available? So we all might be aware of it, and I'll give you a little deeper insight of this. Power BI is available in three segments. One is Power BI Desktop, the second one is Power BI Service, and then you have Power BI Apps, which is for a mobile device. Now, typically, Power BI Desktop is a free version of Office 365, wherein you are doing all your analysis on a desktop version in your own system by connecting with various data sources. Power BI service gives you a capability to share it with any of the external user. You can also share it internally as well, but extensively Power BI service is used when you want to share a dashboard outside your organization. So typically that is a pro version that you have, and there are many segments in pro, right? So whether you want to go for a pro account, you want to go for a premium account, it depends upon the use case that you have and the data that you want to support at the back end. So it really depends upon that. Now, third comes is a mobile Power BI apps, which is basically downloaded on a mobile phone, which has a Windows, iOS, and Android series. You can download it any of the version and view the dashboard accordingly. In fact, in a desktop version, you can design, or in a service version, you can also design a dashboard, which typically could be used for only mobile application. So, because you all understand the mobile app will have a limited view capabilities in terms of the length and the width of the size. So it is, the canvas is designed accordingly so that you are able to navigate through it easily and you're able to understand the report in your phone easily. Now, the fifth question, and guys, this is a very important question and a very basic one. If you are a Power BI expert, this is something that is natural and you should know. When you are talking to any Power BI expert, these are the typical of languages which you would be, talking in with any of the users. So you know the technical building blocks which is there for Power BI are the three building blocks, which is the visualization, the data set, and the reports. Now let's understand what does each mean. So typically I will start with the data set, wherein data set is nothing but whatever data that you extract from your data source will come on in under Power BI, and that particular pane where you're able to view your data set is one of the building block, right? And you can see in the canvas of your Power BI desktop that a data set is completely visible to whatever that you have connected with from your data source. Now comes your visualization. Visualization is a combination of all the charts that you can see on your desktop or you want to extract from an app source. So visualization gives you a building block of building up your canvas. That is very, very important for you to be able to analyze your data in an efficient manner. And reports is the combination of all your visualization. So it could be in different tabs for different viewing purposes. The entire report may be consisting of one organization, and this report is nothing but a combination of various visuals that you would put across on a Power BI tool. Right. So these are the three main building blocks of Power BI. One should always be aware of it. And as we know that two more Power BI building blocks which will be used when you start using this Power BI service account is the dashboard and tiles added to the above three. So what does dashboard do? Dashboard typically combines few of your visuals into one page. So whatever that you generate as a report will come together on a dashboard, right? So you may not be needing the entire report from all the departments. You may just need one specific visual for a user. So you would going to pin all the visuals which is there on the certain reports into a dashboard. So that is going to be one other building block which is typically used in a Power BI service account. And the other one that you use quite often in your Power BI service account would be the tiles. The tiles is a single visualization on a report or a dashboard. It's a rectangular box that holds on one individual visual which you want to focus at, right? And if somebody is viewing a data or a dashboard, you want somebody to pay their attention on a specific KPI which is being very, very closely monitored. You can simply just go ahead and put a tile to it, and that will be highlighting the entire canvas altogether separately. So that is also one of the building block in Power BI service account. So here we covered the question 5, coming on to the question number 6, which says about and which talks about what are the major components of Power BI toolkit and what do they do. So let's understand what is a toolkit, right? So toolkit is something that will help your canvas and which will help Power BI to put everything into one reporting structure. Why do you do that? It's for a very simple reason that there are a lot of type of data sources which is available in the market, right? And in your organization. So you typically want to do an analysis from on top of what is available at your backend is your state data set, right? Now to use those data set efficiently, these are the 6 components which will combine together into a toolkit. Power BI query, Power Query, which is basically data used for a data mashup and a transformation tool. So for an example, if you see there are a lot of errors in your data which you've uploaded, or there are a lot of foreign elements that you want to take it out from the data set, then you will use a Power Query in your desktop version, right? That will help you to clean your data very efficiently. Power Pivot, it's in memory tabular data modeling tool, which will help your data to create models in an efficient manner. Now, what is Power View? Power View is also one of the element which was available in Excel, Microsoft Excel, if you have heard of. So this helps your canvas to give meaningful insights through visualization. So Power View is basically a data visualization tool. It helps you to view your data in any of the chart forms that you see typically, which is available in Power BI desktop, right? So that is one of the toolkit which is available at a backend. Power Maps. Now, understand, if you're doing any of the geographical analysis, you would typically need a map to do it efficiently. In fact, to highlight the outliers, it is important that you have a effective map chart available in your Power BI analysis. So, therefore, Power Map is also one of the toolkit which is added at the backend to be able to give you meaningful insights. Now let's understand this Power QA, which is a very, very interesting one. It gives you an ability of creating a natural language question and answering engine. So what you do is you create some synonyms at the back end of what are the typical question could be asked from basis or your data set that you have uploaded on Power BI desktop. So it basically helps you to define your data set and also be able to give a capability to the viewer to ask a question from the Power BI, which may not be typically covered on your front end. So this really helps you to actually define your entire canvas pretty well. So these are the 6 main pointers that you will see is major component that holds this Power BI toolkit, right? All right, let's switch on to the 7th question, which is what is a current version of Power BI? This could be typically asked in if you are sitting in front of a technical person, because they should have that confidence that you know whether you have that technical knowledge or not. So as you see on the screen, Power BI desktop is available for 32-bit and 64-bit platform. Download the version of Power BI Desktop that matches the architecture of x86 or x64 of your Windows OS. So nowadays, whichever laptops that you have, which is 7 and 10, Windows 7 and 10, they typically support Power BI Desktop in all scenarios, and because their configuration is in 32-bit or either 64-bit. So both of them will work for Power BI Desktop, right? Okay. This is something that you should know and it should be on your fingertips, which is the 8th question coming in. Is Power BI free to use? There are 2 versions of it. Both have their own characteristics and features. There is a free version and there is a pro version. There is a free version which can be a Power BI desktop and Power BI free version but your free version will not support you in when you want to create some workspaces and share it with the external user, and typically when you want to publish your dashboard to an external user. So, and in fact internally also, if you're creating a dashboard and you want to share, you can't share Power BI on a service account until and unless you hold a pro license. So in a way it's partially yes, you can use a free version, but that's for your own use only. Or if you want to circulate it amongst yourself, that's for your own view purposes. But if you want to share it with somebody with the features which you want to showcase, then you will need a pro license for sure. Now, okay, let's understand where this what is this ninth question is all about. Some top features of Power BI, and this is typically asked in your interview, which they want to understand whether you actually know how does Power BI works and what could be the features of it. So some of the features which is there listed in front of you, which is quick insights, acquiring data, real-time information, natural language questions, content the way you want, quick decision, few reports on the go, freedom for integration, sharing. These are typical of features which is available in Power BI, which has made Power BI so popular. And because of the ease of use of Power BI, all the firms have started adopting this quite extensively, to the extent that there are organizations who are willing to have their resources learn Power BI to even a low from lowest to highest level, because this makes your data so clean that you start addressing your concerns and addressing your actionables on time. So it's very important that everyone should understand how to develop any of the dashboards, so that there is a rhythm of maintaining this reporting efficiently in an organization. So that's what it is all about. And top features which is listed in front of you is something that you should know for sure in your interview question. Okay, now let's understand what is the difference between Power BI and Excel. You may come up with this question that Power BI seems to have typical of features which is there in Excel. Then why Power BI? So it is a very good question, and we should understand why we actually use Power BI and not Excel. So the distinct features that you can see on the screen is very very required any of the organization these days. So what does Power BI actually do? Power BI, which is not there in Excel, by the way. So Power BI will give you a integration with any of your ETL tool which is available. It has an extensive list where you can do the collaboration from your data and pull the information and do some quick insights out of it, which is difficult in Excel because Excel can hold your data to some extent, not completely. Number one. Number two is your reporting becomes very easier because the charts are already available in Power BI desktop, and you just need to go ahead and place it right. So you, even if you pick certain parameters in quick insights, you have the capability to see what are the good charts which you can actually showcase in your data sets, right? So that is the second one. The third one is giving that feature of an Q&A, asking question and answer, giving the answer is one of the feature which is definitely not available in Excel, and doing some predictive analytics. So we all know that the Power BI can now be, collaborated with Python, R, and everything which as an AI tool is using. Now that coming into Power BI gives a very, very good hold to this particular tool to come up with some meaningful insights and actionables for the stakeholders, which can actually predict the future sales. So this is really impactful for any of the organization. That this is the main feature and this is the main difference between Power BI and versus Excel. Okay, now the 11th question is something that we've already covered above, but I'm going to cover this a little bit deeper as to where, it is asked, name some important tools of Power BI. Okay, so some important tools on which the Power BI functions is the Power BI desktop, Power BI service, Power BI data gateway, Power BI report server, and Power BI mobile apps. These are the five typical tools on which Power BI will function. Depending upon your organizational IT structure, any of the tool is used. So if you are using something on premises, you will rather go for a Power BI report server. If your data is too sensitive and cannot be put on the cloud, then you start using Power BI report server and rather than going to a Power BI service account. So that's what the main important tools and the difference between them. Okay. Coming on to the 12th question, which says, what are the content packs in Power BI and why would you use one? Let's understand what is a contact pack. So content pack is a self-explanatory name, as you see, and it means a package of Power BI content, which can be a dashboard or a report and a data set, right? So content packs is basically created when you are working with too many departments in an organization, and to maintain that different groups you start preparing content pack, right? So that you can publish the dashboard or you can give the access to a group to that particular content. This is basically defined in your an administrator would define this for a user or for your group who is working on that data set. How do we do that is obviously covered in the detailed training that we give, but typically packs is very useful when it comes to various groups working on developing the dashboard, and you see there are various groups where you want to share with whom you want to share the dashboard. So this really becomes very important to maintain as in your dashboard in a content pack, right? Okay, now this is a question which will definitely be asked and which you should know to the deeper extent, because this is something will help you to develop your correct answers to your canvas. Your questions which is there in your mind when you view the when you view the data set, and that answer to those questions will only come when your DAX is correct. So what is DAX basically? DAX is a data analysis expression. It is a library of function and operators that can be combined to build formulas and expressions in Power BI's analysis service and Power Pivot in Excel data models. Was the appropriate definition for DAX, and as the definition defines, it helps you to build up the formulas to get your output on your canvas, right? Typical of your DAX, which are used, just could be asked in your interview, and such DAX you should know. Basically, what is the difference between sum and the sum x? As the formula you perform in Excel, right? You place an icon and you just sum up the column together will give you the total of that particular column is sum function used at. Similarly, sum x is a situation where you are giving a unit price and you give it unit price and the quantity. So when you want to take out the total sales, you will just use sum x formula from with that individual prices. Sum is used on a total value. So these are the typical of differences you should know between DAX function. They can ask you some of the DAX function which is used in your day-to-day analysis. And obviously in detail we have already covered it in our session, so you will have a better view of what are the DAX which you should be knowing when you perform any of analysis on your canvas. Switching to the 15th question, which we have is list the benefits of using variables in DAX. So using variable in your DAX formulas helps you to write complex and efficient calculation. Variables can improve performance, improve readability, simply debugging, and reduce complexity. So this is what variables will be used for, and you should know how you have to use it in your canvas. 16th question, which is of what is Power Maps. Now, let's understand we have many maps as in visualization available in the desktop version. Now let's understand what Power Map does. So typically one of the key feature in this visualization that it presents the data and insights using appealing visuals, which we can see right now. So in your screen you can see how this particular map has highlighted the red or the orange section. So where just by viewing you're able to understand that the red could be the data where there is a matter of concern, and orange is the part where you are doing that analysis. Where you see the green, which is a slight green, is of course the area where you don't have to bother about it. So this is what the power of map is, and typical of maps which are built in Power BI is these four, which is already available. So depending upon the use cases, you can pick any of the charts. Just to give you an highlight is if you see a globe, visual here, it typically would highlight the bubbles. You can use it by creating bubbles where you want to focus. Like for an example, if you want to do some coronavirus analysis, you can simply select the total number of cases into the highlighting point where you want the bubbles to show where the cases are appearing. So the bigger the bubble is, the more concerned area is that, and more impacted area is that. So and therefore, there are three for more map structure, which is just next to the globe. So you can actually use that, which will highlight the filled map, which is basically going to cover the data set which you will see in your data set at a backend. So if any of the parameter that you will choose, the highlighted section will give you where your data is covering, which part of the country or which part of the state it is covering. And so similarly, you can see the shape map and the arches map. Arches map is typically, used when you are actually deploying heavy sort of a visualization on top of a tool or on top of an application, majorly a paid version. So more than this, I would advise you to use a globe map, because majorly arches map is going to be your paid version. And if you want to have a very, very great view of this, and if you want to take the advantage of arches map, so that is used under the paid version. As I have explained above, 18 question would be covering in detail of what the features of how about filled map is. So I've already covered it before. Okay, now let's understand what data sources you can connect to in Power BI. So, well, these are the files, not only the files, I'm just giving you an example. So, all the flat files and data sources can be covered, and the list is pretty long. But typically, which are the most used one is the flat files, which would come from the Excel, text, XML, JSN, any of your folder, PDF. You can also use SharePoint if you have, and obviously you have your SAP, your Azure database, data factory, any of the data sources where your data is lying, you can connect it to Power BI. And Power BI is a very flexible tool where you can do any of your integration with and any of your collaboration with your data set. So it's quite supportive tool when it comes to the collaboration. This question, as you know, I've answered above. These are typically supported, and you will see your universe of your data source at a backend will be of this only. There is hardly that you will see out of this particular information. Majorly, which is majorly the database which is used in the industry is SQL Server, and now they are switching over to SAP HANA, Azure Data Factory, Snowflake, Oracle. But other than this list, I will find very rare of them which is being used in the market, right? So you can see the list is pretty long, and this is not the end. We also have the connectors in place if in case your data is typical of the data source which you think is not supportive in any of your self-developed kind of a data warehouse, then a connector will help you to connect it at a backend with your Power BI. All right, so let's jump over to one of the tool, which is Power BI Desktop. What does Power BI Desktop do? Power BI Desktop, as we all know, it's a free application which is available for Power BI. You can do that analysis on your system itself, and then you have to publish it on your Power BI service account. So anything that you want to do, your rough canvas, everything is your drawing canvas is basically Power BI Desktop. What is the use of get data icon in Power BI? So basically, the moment you will click to get data, you will be able to get an option to choose your data source which you want to pull into Power BI. It's as simple as that. 22nd question, which we see on the screen, is how to perform query task in Power BI desktop. So when you pull your data into the data Power BI desktop version, you can go ahead and transform the data into a meaningful data set, which is done through Power Query. And that basically is available on the Home tab. That ribbon is available where you go ahead and click onto transform data. There you can just, do whatever you want to do at your data set, whether you want to transform the column, you want to remove any elements that you don't want them to be present in your data set, whether there is a foreign element, you can do anything with the help of Power Query. Okay, 23rd question, which is, can we store data in Power BI? If so, then where does it get stored? So Power BI stores data in a few different locations. All the data stays secure through measures such as encryption and password protection. It mostly depends on the channel that you are used to import that data. Data is stored in a few places, but it all boils down to one or two main locations, the cloud and your desktop. So the main source will be from where you're picking up the data, but anything which is going inside Power BI desktop and your desktop, or the cloud version, it is 100% encrypted. How do you create a group in Power BI? So if somebody asks you, can you create a group? Now, please understand what are we trying to do here. To perform grouping in Power BI, what you need to do is you need to go to that visual and you do a right click to that particular visual. And that right click, once you do, it will give you the option to group your particular visual. So as you see in my screen here, there is a pie, and there is a pie. You will see once you do a right click, you will see an option of going ahead and grouping the data, right? So that's where you can actually go ahead and create that group, right? When you create that group, what happens? Once you click on the group option, Power BI will automatically group those items as shown below. That's it. We did the grouping. If you observe closely, legend section is replaced by color group and the color is placed in the detail section, right? You can see the difference on your screen here. Okay. Coming on to the 25th question, which is of name some of the popular types of filters available in Power BI. This is quite frequently asked question. You must know what are the typical kinds of filtering which is available in your Power BI. So as you see on the screen, there is a drill down feature. There is also a cross drill filter. There's a drill through filter, there is a URL filter, you have a manual filter, you have then automatic filter, you have more advanced filter, and then you have an include and exclude filter. How do we do that to an extent is obviously covered in our detailed, training which we give. But remember these 8 names, these are typical of filtering which are available in your Power BI, right? Okay, now this is something which basically is asked in the interview question, but this is not the world at the back end of Power BI. So basically, M language is introduced in Power BI, especially in a Power Query. You use this M function and this M language basically when you want to do some data mashup and you want to do some data modeling. So not much that we've seen the use case, but it is always an advantage to learn this. So MA language is basically used under Power Query and used to do a data mashup or a data cleanup, right? Okay, now 27th question which comes up is, can you explain a few ways of how a Power Query can transform the data? See, and on your screen, as you can see, that typical of 2 ways how you can transform the data is when you load the data, it automatically gives you an option of transforming. So you click there and you straight away reach to Power Query page. Or else what you can do is just go under Power Query, which you can see on the home tab of your canvas. And once you open it, it will give you the option of changing your data or transforming your data in any of the types that you're willing to do that for. So for an example, in this canvas, you can see you wanted to change maybe a date format, a format of your column to a date format, right? So you simply go ahead and select change type, and then you select any of thing that you think is efficiently showing your data set, right? So once you do that, once you do the changes, please remember to go ahead and select close and apply. Once you go ahead and do that, your data changes are reflecting in your canvas. Okay, so the 28th question which we have is, which data sets are used to create a dashboard with streaming data tiles? Streaming data sets, let's talk about what does that exactly mean. So basically, it is a continuously and a real-time data which transport to Power BI. Power BI stored this data in temporary cache for a little time. The streaming data set can visualize data in your dashboard tiles. A tile is a snapshot of your data pinned to a dashboard. We have already seen this before, we've learned this before. Now, this is what the use case of streaming data set is, data tiles is. All right, so you could be asked this question that what are the different views that Power BI desktop contain? So you always see when you open your Power BI desktop, you will see on a left hand side, these are the three icons that you can see just on the left of your canvas. So what is this? And you should know these names, because when you're talking to a Power BI person, you will tell that, okay, go to the report pane, go to the report view, go to the data view and relationship view. So these are the three different views which is available on your Power BI desktop. And this, how does it help you to navigate is a relationship view will be giving you a capability of doing the modeling at a backend of your data, which is there, which has been uploaded to desktop version. Data view is something that any of your table you will click, you will be able to view what kind of a data is residing in that data set. Report view will give you the capability to view your canvas and how you have created your report. So these are the three views which are available in your desktop. Okay, something very important, and many of the organizations have started using this because they want to maintain the security of the data. So, what do you know about row level security and how do you implement it? Could be your question. So, what you all need to do is to understand what does the row level security does. So, low level security will enable the user to access a table without accessing all rows on that table, right? So this type of security is typically applied to tables that hold sensitive data. As I said, it is typically used when you know that the data is sensitive and you don't want to showcase that to a group. How do we do that in detail is covered in our training session, but you should know when somebody is asking is what is row level security, so you should be able to let the person know what is the main purpose of doing this. Something which you should know that, defining roles and rules in Power BI desktop. You can define the roles and rules within Power BI desktop itself when you publish it to the service version. And this typically will be used for, how you want to add the member, how you want to change, which other email addresses you want to put in for viewing the dashboard, what level of user should have what typical sort of a security, disabled or enabled. All this comes under row level security, right? And this helps you to maintain your data, your sensitive data, in an efficient manner with a secure in a secured way. Okay, now let's understand what do we mean by cross filtering, bidirectional cross filtering in Power BI. So as you can see in the screen here, how we actually create a bi-directional cross filtering in Power BI. So basically, it is exactly the way it is sounding as I've written here. Filtering that works in both directions. So it will go to work in both the direction. The features allow user to apply filters to both sides of the table relationship. So here you're using two tables, as you can see in my screen here. One was the article table and the other one was the category table. You can use this bi-directional by in both on both the sides. Just highlight the column, highlight the column where you want to use this relationship, where you want to set up this relationship. You have to choose both and apply the security filter when you go ahead and do it. That's how you establish a bidirectional cross filtering in Power BI. How do you create and manage relationship in Power BI desktop? It's very simple. Though in Power BI desktop, once you push the data, by default, Power BI desktop starts understanding the data and creates the relationship at a backend on its own. But if you want to change it, you can also change manually the relationship, or you can build up a relationship if it is not built yet. So you will go ahead and form this, pick up the tables that you want to go ahead and create the relationship for, select the two columns where you want to create those relationship. And just remember guys, for an efficient way to and the way that your data will understand the information from the other table, you have to build up a relationship of one to many. Many to many doesn't work here. One to many is something that Power BI will understand. If there is many to many relationship, then likely your output will not be correct. And therefore, in a situation where you see the many to many option is only available, you have to create a bridge table between that, so that you have a many to one relationship. Now, you may be asked that tell me something more about edit query. So, edit query, basically, editor will help you. It is the function where you go ahead and transform your data. So, this you should know throughout. What does a Power Query or a Power Query editor will help you with? So, it plays a very important role in transforming your data set from by selecting the rows and the columns, or splitting it into various sections that you want to pivot and unpivot. All those features that you typically have used in Excel can be done in Power Query editor. Okay, Power BI Designer is a new tool available from Microsoft, which consolidates many of the current Microsoft BI tools under one application. The tool allows user to connect to a whole sundry of data sources, then to clean and model the data, and finally to create reports and dashboards, right? So this is something that you will be able to understand if you've gone through the training with Mindmajix in detail. But you should know fairly, and you should be able to describe what is the main difference when it comes to Power BI desktop or a designer. What are the different type of gateways available in Power BI, and why would you use them? We have heard of this quite often, but let's understand in detail what are the typical ways of the gateways you connect to the data source. So, one is on-premises data gateway, and the other one is on-premises data gateway in a personal mode. As the name suggests, the personal mode allows one user to connect to sources and can't be shared with others because it's a personal mode. But the on-premises data set allows multiple user to connect to multiple users on-premises data source, because of the fact that you want to go ahead and let the other one also build the canvas or build the a visualization. So data gateway is typically done and used when there is a large users or creators of that canvas. So this gateway is well suited to complex scenarios with multiple people accessing multiple data sources. Okay, so coming on to the 36th question, as we have understood the maps and the functions, as I was talking about the bubble chart, you can see in the screen the difference between the geographical map when used from Power BI and the type of charts that we have covered earlier. This chart will give you a capability to draw your attention right away when you want to highlight some concerning areas in your performance. So, for an example, in this canvas, you can see the bigger the circle is where you need to draw your attention and see whether corrective action has been taken or not. And that's why we use this kind of a chart available in Power BI. Okay, now this could be a rare question to be asked, but since we are covering, I never wanted to leave this also. Explain the Z order in Power BI. Now, what is Z order? It is a design strategy which is used for arranging visual over shapes. You can see here. So this is how it is being used. It can be defined as an implementation method which can be applied whenever reports have multiple elements. Right? This is how you actually go ahead and have an X order, Z order. What is the primary requirement of a table to be used in Power Maps? So typical of the things that you would need when you are trying to build anything on a geographical standpoint or any of the maps that you're using is first and foremost you need to have city, state, zip code and street address to be able to pick your circles efficiently, pairing up your latitude and longitude. This is something that you should and must have in your data set when you are doing any of your power map analysis. Okay, let's see what is the difference between Power BI, Power Query, and Power Pivot. Though we have covered it in previous slides, but let me just a quick glimpse of it of what Power Query, Power Pivot, and Power BI is. So Power Query will connect, will fetch the data, set up filters, merge, combine, change the data set in the way that you want to, reshape the data, and publish it. Power Pivot will model the data, set up relationship, calculations, and set up the KPIs, make a cubes out of your data set. And therefore, you're able to transform anything into a visualization on a Power BI, which is the front end, to the AI on top of it. Go ahead and ask questions. Go ahead and create the forecast. Use Python or R. That's what the main difference between all of them is. Okay, now let's understand our Power Query and Power View and Power Query is the same. So the answer to this is actually no. Power Query, what will it do? As we've covered earlier also in many of our questions, Power Query will simply helps you to transform that data set in a correct way. Let's say if you have an Excel and if you have some foreign elements to it, it will not give you the correct sum. So Power Query will help you to do that, nicely transform your data and give you the correct calculation. But when it comes to the Power View, it gives you and it enables you to create some nice reports containing images and maps. So that is the main difference between Power View and Power Query. Okay, next question comes up. Is it possible to refresh a Power BI report after uploading it to the cloud? The answer is 100% yes. Gateways can be used to do so. For SharePoint, Data Management Gateway. For Power BI.com, Power BI Personal Gateway. So, these are typical of questions which will be asked in your interview because you should know how to refresh your data set. Okay, the next question is, can you tell me what is the difference between Data Management Gateway and Power BI Personal Gateway? We've covered it earlier, but let me just cover it again in little detail. So what is this data management gateway do? It is nothing but it will going to give you ability to transform your data from your SharePoint online to Power BI. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, this data management gateway was the gateway used for the first release of Power BI when it was part of SharePoint Online. Power BI for Office 365. That is when it was used for. For Power BI, use either the personal or a on-premises data gateway, which we covered earlier in my previous question. And that's where you now start using Power BI gateways, either in a personal mode or into a gateway mode. Okay, so we have already covered what does data security, implement the data security in Power BI, but just giving a highlight again as to Power BI can apply row level security roles to models. When somebody asks you this question that how do you implement data security in your Power BI, the first answer which should be coming is by giving the row level security roles. Right, so what does it do majorly? A DAX expression is applied on a table, filtering its rows at query time. Right, so you give some understanding to the data set that you only need to be able to give this data set when somebody is with the name of so and so. So dynamic security involves the use of the username function in security role definition, as I said. And typically a table is created in which in the model that relates users to specific dimensions and the roles. So you give them what kind of a role you want to give and what kind of access you want to give to that particular user. The next question comes up, what do you know about many to many relationships in Power BI and how do you avoid them? Okay, so many to many relationship involves, as I said earlier also, it when you see there is a table which has a many to many relationship, to be able to give you the answer of any of your question which is going in your mind that you want to showcase in your data set will only come up when you create that bridge table. How do we do that is covered in our training session, but to build up a relationship between them, you have to create that bridge table to avoid that relationship. Okay, the next question is, well, this is, of course, anyone who's working on Power BI would know, and just covering a little bit more into a drilled manner so that you remember it quickly. That what are the key differences between a Power BI data set, a report, and a dashboard? So as we all know, data set is something that you have gathered from your various data sources. Reports will give you the capability to put it all together in your canvas, and dashboard is something that you create as a one pager for a viewer to view and pin the tables, pin your reports into one visual, one data set and dashboard for a user. Right, so it makes them comfortable and well versed with all this putting together into the dashboard. So these are the main typical of differences, and in detail we have already covered for you to know in our training session. Now the next one comes up is to list some edit interaction options in Power BI. Let me make you understand what are the edit interaction, though we have covered this in our training session, but something which you must know, and it's a beneficial for the users when they are viewing it. The way that you want to create your canvas is by doing some edit interaction. For an example, in a scenario where you see a total sales, you want on the page to be reflecting the same as total sales of the entire organization, but what you may want to do is you want the interaction of the other visual to not be impacted if you're doing some certain specific filtration or selection on your canvas. So for an example, if you select a geography which is basically of northern side of your country, your total sales should reflect as it is. In this scenario, you will be typically using edit interaction to be able to do it successfully, and there is message which you want to send across remains on that page. So edit interaction helps you do that. Okay. The next one is, how can you convert SSRS to Power BI? How do we actually do that? Is certain SSRS report items such as charts can be pinned to Power BI dashboard. You have the capability of basically collaborating your Power BI to your SSRS directly, and you just pin the dashboard to your service account from there. Clicking the tile in Power BI dashboard will bring the user to the SSRS report. So you go back to that particular report. A subscription is created to keep the dashboard tile refreshed. So you can go ahead and create a subscription once you do that. Whenever you refresh, the data gets refreshed on the dashboard, and Power BI reports will soon be able to publish to SSRS portal. Right. So that's how you actually can convert your SSRS to your Power BI. Okay, what is a real time or a time intelligence function? So, when you are doing an analysis where you want to compare fiscal year's data, which is like the current year to the previous year, you use certain functions which is through DAX, and you use a time intelligence function to be able to do so. So, there it gives you a capability to go ahead and analyze your data for over the years. This is what you actually call a time intelligence function. Okay, now once you're done with all this, guys, so I think the first and the foremost question which comes in your mind is to how do I prepare for Power BI certification? So the first thing, of course, is when we've concentrated on this 50 question, which is typically asked in the industry. The second, which is very obvious, is Mindmajix instructors-led training completely prepares you for this certification. We provide you two industry-specific project training in the course, which helps you have hands-on experience on all possible scenarios, which is part of your certification. And what we will also do is we give you certain set of questions, a link to that particular questionnaire, I will say, which will help you to understand how this exam is structured from Microsoft perspective, and how can you easily go ahead and get that certification. So, which is recommended by Microsoft, right? So this is something which we actually make sure that all our students and the trainees get well versed of, and we really focus on getting that certification from Microsoft itself, because that holds value in the market. But once you complete both the projects which we give, we do go ahead and give some certificate of completion on Power BI course from Mindmajix as well. I think this is the question with everybody in everybody's mind: is Power BI a good career? Well, you can just simply start looking on the highest demanding skills or highest demanding resources in any of the country and the market. You will find BI going on the top. And when I talk about BI, everybody who is looking at is, which is listed here on the screen, which is a Power BI analyst. Power BI is so much in demand is because of the way it can be used. It is so easy to use it, and plus it is so interactive, it is so cheap in the market, that all the organization are completely moving from their traditional way of reporting to Power BI reporting. So everyone is more focusing on doing this, and you've seen the magic quadrant which is there from the Gartner for 2020, Microsoft topping the chart, which has come to the leadership quadrant already. So there is no question, and there should not be any question in your mind which is coming as whether Power BI would be a good career or not. We can specifically share kind of a pay scale which is actually given in typical of top 5 6 countries in the world for a Power BI analyst. But this is the most demanding tool and a skill to be added specifically for any manager and above group. All the organization are actually ensuring that their managers and above group go through Power BI training and start visualizing and start taking decision on the basis of the dashboard which is developed on Power BI. So I hope, guys, this training session has been this training of 50 questionnaire session has been good and beneficial for all of you. And get in touch with us for a detailed course from Mindmajix. We'll be happy to assist. Thank you so much and have a nice time.